So I've been asked to essentially talk about bad news. I've been asked to say what happens when our current use of our IP is no good anymore. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to run through these slides pretty quick, and as you know, you get the slides so you don't have to run around and take notes, so that's a good thing. A little bit of background. As the co-founder of MOZ, I took MOZ from inception to the world's largest brand of search marketing or digital marketing software. We were known as SEO MOZ to begin with. And SEO is no longer an interesting conversation, because it's kind of baked in. It's much more than SEO. It was very interesting in 1997 and 1998. We too had to pivot. So we've walked this path, and what I'm saying is this is not the end of your professional lives, this is just the next step. All of you are quite successful, or you wouldn't be here. You couldn't afford to be here. You'd be already locking up the doors back home. But the bell has tolled. The industry is changing. It's not closing, it's changing. Let's take a look and see where we can go. So the question, of course, is begged, what do we do now? Apart from being sexy, yeah, what is it you really do for a living? You do this stuff, but you do it over here. All right? Online classifieds would be super. I mean, really, that would be great if it wasn't free. Oh, crap, right. Now, you can make plenty of money, and over the last few days, we've had a really good list of ideas, and this one pretty much covers all the things that you've heard. And we'll cover a few more, but that's not the same as pivoting. It's not the same as repurposing your IP. So let's make an understanding of the difference, right? You can make a lot of money, right, Marta? You can make a lot of money. All right. Now, Reg DeRosa has a wonderful list of ways that you can monetize what's going on and kind of get into that future, if you will. I'd say it's a very short-term future. He's telling you to personalize, get social recommendations in here, get better search software in there, right? Organization of systems and processes, more geolocations, and of course, a connection infrastructure. This is one we may not have covered super over the last few days. The other ones we certainly covered, right? The connection infrastructure is about putting more than just a link to somebody's email, right? It's really about tracking your entire system. Those of you who are already in B2B verticals are doing that sort of thing. I can track my entire campaign. But letting mom track her entire campaign as she fills a nursery with things that she's going to purchase off classifieds, well, that might be useful too. It simply engages them more deeply. And of course, please filter the chaos. There is a lot of noise inside it, and we know that just means better spam filters. So all of them are brilliant, but I'd like to look a little bit deeper. Well, how cool is that? Look at this. It's a method for converting a text classified natural sounding into a natural sounding audio ad. Well, that's really good. We've got more than 200 million people on the planet who are hearing impaired, or sight impaired, excuse me, not hearing impaired, sight impaired. Well, that would be an interesting niche market. And obviously somebody's after it, and you know, there's really some pretty good stuff going, but that's who filed it, and oh snap, yeah, they got that one. But they have the right idea. The question is, the IP that you already own, is it axle grease, or what else can you do with it? What other uses might it have? And what do you really do for a living when you get under the hood? What you really do for a living is provide sourced items for people who require them, and you connect those. We've been doing that for a really long time, well before classified exists. This is an image of the Boeing company. My husband worked for the Boeing company for more than 30 years. He created in the early 90s, even before the web showed up, right, he created an internal database system inside the Boeing company in order to take care of hazardous waste. They would have 55-gallon drums of what we would call methyl ethyl chicken poop coming in one door. Right? And way back at the other end of this building that built 747s, which means it's huge, right? At the time, I think it was the largest building in the planet in terms of square footage on the ground, right? And out the other end was going 53 gallons of the same stuff, because whoever ordered that one only needed 2. His job was to make sure they didn't have to stick the stuff in landfills. That is a huge market. And it leverages exactly the IP that you have currently. It's merely internal to a corporation. Instead of going out there and serving the general public, whether it's B2B, B2C, or C2C, you can go internal to an organization and you can power their system because you already do it. Now that would be intriguing. Inside a walled garden, you could do that. And it's interesting. You could be a clearinghouse for all of these guys. It's interesting to do a silo, right? Inside that one silo, you could do it. How about if you clustered them? There's an entire industry that nobody's picked up. I did a lot of research. I couldn't find anybody. Does anybody here know anyone doing that kind of work? Where you go inside an organization, in a vertical market, you say within your company, we're going to start helping you do things like reduce hazardous waste or any other kind of resource. There are a lot of multinational corporations, and they exist within clusters of other multinationals in the same sector. You can be a clearinghouse among all of them, not just internal, for example, to the Boeing company. B2B can also, of course, go mobile. That's not a pivot, that's just an innovation. Amazon Fresh has that idea, right? They're going mobile as well, and everybody is. It just means multi-platform, it just means all the sizes that you do. So again, I'm making the difference between what's a pivot and what's just an innovation. In terms of Amazon Fresh, you can go around and buy anything you like. It's just a classified line, right? And then suddenly you can do commerce with it. They've e-commerce enabled it. So is all of the other ones, right? Amazon and so on, it's the same idea. But C2C can go mobile as well. Now, if you're going to get this kind of thing going using exactly the IP that you've got, and you're going to continue in the same sector, all I'm saying is you're going to have to get dressed for the dance. It's going to have to look a little more exciting. You're going to have to add image, video, connections, and a consistent reason to return. In other words, gamification. Take a look at a disorganized market here. By organizing a disorganized market, you can succeed in any market in the world. That's just generic business, right? Organizing disorganized markets. And they exist in C2C sections, but they also exist in small B2B, all right? I'm saying take a look at it from another angle. What I want you to do is organize it not from finding the vendors, but from finding the customers. You just look at it from a different angle. You organize it from the needs of the customer, and that's exactly what Amazon Fresh did. They threw in all of this stuff. They don't make any of it. They don't even store any of it, but they do manage the logistics. And those little small businesses, this entrepreneurship of necessity, which arises because we have a burgeoning of entrepreneurship around the world, right? Everybody lost their jobs, so they got to go do something, right? So this entrepreneurships of necessity are cottage industries, very small businesses, and they all have the same requirements of businesses of any size, which would be marketing, sales support, logistics, and sourcing of materials. They need all the things that a classified system or process can offer them. Paid ad placements was kind of classified 101, right? They did that in print media, that's fine. And then it got free. And then it got, well, mostly free. And then we added people to it. There are a number of people doing really good work by adding people to the process. OfferUp Now is one of them. It's both mobile, it's visually based, right? You can see that the advertisements here are all just pictures. Take a page out of Pinterest's book. Some of you were counseled along the way here in doing social stuff, you know, connecting to Pinterest and stuff like that, right? This guy became Pinterest. A lot of folks are getting into this, and it makes all the more sense in the world. If I'm looking for an item, I want the images to be researched, if you will, to be sourced by my search, by searching for the word. But when I get there, I want to see the image right away. Right? With Craigslist, I can put up 4 pictures, oh whoopee. And I can dig into them, and then I can even see now whether or not there's a little picture there or there isn't, and I have to click through and get past it. That's what it looks like. And then this guy added people to it, because this is a C2C platform. These are moms in the background, you can kind of tell, young women, right? So moms have a little bit of a problem if they're trying to sell Johnny's clothing or toys or pram or crib. They do have a small child in tow, possibly more, and they want to go and purchase this sort of thing as well. They're not quite sure who they're going to meet or where they're going to be. So they added people to it, and what they leveraged was the concept of Facebook's friends of friends. If I can figure out who this person is and who else they're connected to, then they really do live in the neighborhood. They really are a mom, and I'm not going to get my kid in trouble. That was huge for moms. And then, of course, it expanded, and now people are selling all kinds of stuff on it. But the concept was real good, protecting the consumer. How do you protect the consumer? It's not about spam in the platform anymore. Okay. So classified 3.0 is this offer up now stuff, and it's spreading. 4.0, it's targeted, curated connections with ratings and reviews and one-click to commerce, which is an important issue because you move right away from classifieds into things like Amazon and eBay, and that's a huge move. And it's a robust communications management platform. I didn't say it was going to be get rich quick, but I did say that's the future. It's about to get a whole lot more complex. When I started in my industry, SEO was pretty simple. You remember spamming stuff? Right? Putting in tiny little words and white-on-white backgrounds and stuff like that. They were silly little games. The black hats show up first all the time. Then the white hats show up and they say, well, yeah, I don't have, warehouses full of domains to throw at this, and maybe Google will throw them out, but I made a few bucks during the hours that it was live. I only have one domain. It's the University of Dresden or something. I can't afford to play black hat games. So then the white hats show up and things start getting more complex. That's exactly what's happening to your industry. Things are getting far more complex. ThreadUp is doing a really good job in this as well, right? You can sell it, you can donate it, and you can earn cash. They're mixing and matching concepts and things that people already do and leveraging essentially a classic classified ad IP. You can create protective social clubs and put them inside advertising. Again, this is about kids. It was a great place to do that kind of thing. You can see it's called Baby Junk down here, and it helps you connect with other parents. Again, leveraging the concept of friends of friends. You can move on and create more tight-knit communities, and that creates a community, right, creates long-lasting support for your project. OXL, we talked about this, I think, yesterday as well, also made the leap moving from traditional to mobile, and they are leveraging it in a market where people will never see anything but mobile. Emerging markets is huge as well. You have the playbook there. It's like Back to the Future 3. Remember the playbook? You knew exactly what was going to happen. You have the playbook. Anybody who isn't looking at emerging markets is missing a huge amount of money. They're waiting to happen. It's 1950 in India. They have just paved the national highways. What comes next? Somebody, come on, wake up. What comes after you pave the national highways, let's say, in the United States? What happened after you paved national highways here in Europe? It was deliverables of replicable expected services, also known as Howard Johnson's, McDonald's, fast food restaurants of every kind, pit stops along the way. It's about to happen in India. What can you do about it, right? What's about to happen in the classified worlds over there? They're about to get online. They're about to do it on mobile. 1.2 million new cell phones are set up every month in India. That's not the same service, and I traded out my phone. That's 1.2 million new people doing it. And I have seen people walking in fields behind oxes and plows that were made by their great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfathers and slogging through the mud, right, and talking on their web-enabled cell phones. And they're texting whether or not they can, trade out this potato or that product or the other crop. It's about to happen, and you guys can leverage it. I'd like to have some parting thoughts on this concept of communities. Communities are things that make people return to your website. Right? They are sticky. And I talked about this yesterday in one of my sessions and so on. If you have a circle of people and you are in the center and it's your website, you can talk to these other guys. You can tweet to them, you can Facebook to them, whatever. You can talk to them in some way. And that's cool. That's one strand of hair. And if they talk back to you, that's a nice metric, but don't worry about it if you're a CEO. We talked a lot about metrics yesterday. It's an interesting one, but it's not for you, right? It becomes interesting when they start talking to each other. They come to your house to have that party. They come to your house, your website, to have the conversation about being who they are and what they do and what the situations are that they're worried about and what keeps them up at night and so on and so forth. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in, there has to be a place where people like that talk to each other. Own that space, and you will have a community that will keep each other in there. And they don't stay just for you because your little strands of hair, it's just one or two, broken in a heartbeat. The people who will keep me coming back to your community are all of my colleagues that I've been talking to. If I begin to stray and I'm not active there very often, well, they'll tell me to come on back. That's when it becomes interesting. So the concept of community marketing is the next big thing. It's what will keep you alive. It's what will tell you what goes into triage, what needs to be fixed now. And that's not just if your system is broken or if your platform is broken. They will tell you what they need in order to keep doing business with you. Just ask your community. Ask them to start the conversation. Seed it and see where it goes. The second thing is they will tell you what has to be innovative on. Oh, gee, I really love this, website where I can sell whatever, but I wish it, oh, thank you, we needed to know that. Let's go see if we can build it. And then finally, they'll tell you what to invent. They'll talk about things that say, there's nobody out there who does blah, 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 blah. Boy, I wish I could. As far as I'm concerned, I still want my jetpack. Nobody's out there doing it yet. They'll tell you what all of those three things are. What goes into triage to get fixed? What gets innovated on that you're already doing? What can you do better? And they will tell you what they'd like you to invent. And you say, yeah, wait, that's in our sector. We can do that too. Make sure that conversation happens there. So let's take a look at what community is all about. Cosmic clusters, yeah, one would not say it's a community, but there are patterns in it. Single cells from the very great to the very small. Here's an aspen tree cluster. This is an interesting thing. It looks like a lot of trees, but it's actually one organism. It may be one of the largest organisms on the planet. It has a single root system. But again, we still would not call that in any way, shape, or form a community. We've got schools of fish and flocks of flamingos. We have human clusters, but what made us different between a cluster and a community? So human clusters moved around a lot. That's great. And they clumped together, yes. This would be another human cluster. This was the inauguration of Obama in the first administration, the first inauguration. And they all came together, and they all had some kind of shared interest, and they all went away. Chances of them recollecting here, not so much. So it's not about interest groups. Here are some interest groups, I don't know, scouts and so on, and brand communities. Oh, that becomes interesting. Harley Davidson. Gaming communities, in which people get together on a regular basis and do the same thing again and again. And finally, industry communities. I talked a little bit about this yesterday as well. If I had a cure for cancer, I would not be publishing it on my own website, my hospital website, or my clinic. I would go to the AMA and publish it there, because I'm never getting to Stockholm to pick up my award unless I go through the AMA. They are the center of the discussion around that portion of medicine for the entire world. You get the idea now of what we're talking about in terms of a brand community. There are event communities just like this one. I didn't get a photo of you guys fast enough, but you get the idea. Tech communities, yep. Sorry about that one, right in the middle there, okay. And political communities can be very scary. These are social community platforms. They are not communities, and I just want to make sure you've got the difference here. Right? Communities is what we build on these platforms. And you can see there's more than just Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn over here. If you look carefully, you will find one in the vertical sectors that you're addressing where people are getting together to begin these discussions. Right? You can bring them over to your place and have that discussion on a regular basis. The anthropology of communities is about the nature of it. It's about shared values, shared goals, and shared experience. And shared experience will trump the other two by a country mile. Shared values is interesting. We've got this over at MOZ, the tenets that hold our company together. And it is an important piece. And those things are built from the inside of your company out. And it should be transparent, and it should be really, if you will, right out there in front of your website. That's the initial hello, handshake, and thank you for being with us as our customers. It tells them what you're about. It makes you human. People don't have relationships with brands or products. We have no interest in them. It's about the humans behind it. The shared goals. This is a picture of Noah's dad's website, the Noah's dad, right? Noah's a little boy who has Down syndrome, and his father writes this website on a daily and sometimes only weekly basis. But he talks about all the things, the challenges of raising a child who has Down syndrome. There are people all over the world who come to this website to do what this guy videotapes being done for his son. He takes his son to, I don't know, therapy sessions and things like that, and people who cannot afford it or have no access to it will come to this site and they will replicate exactly what's going on. Pretty impressive stuff. But shared experience is what holds people together. So shared experience, right? People, the more intense the experience, the tighter the community around it. People who do these kinds of intense jobs, right, tend to hang out with each other. They tend to stay together for a very long time. The people who stood shoulder to shoulder at 11/11/11 went to each other's funerals to the last man standing. And they did not have the benefit of a social platform to keep them together. People versus personas. If you're still marketing to personas, you're a little bit off the mark at this point. It's not a bad thing to create personas and think about it. It's far better to ask specific people who are already engaged with your brand, and those who are engaged most, who are already coming back and posting things more frequently, those are the people that you want to engage with. Communities on the web happen much faster than the community would happen offline. They have to be in context, social context, they have to be in cultural context. Be very careful where you build them and how you build the rules around the communication of the people who are there. They can connect the unconnected. Again, intensely targeted markets that hardly anyone is addressing. They bind us across all platforms of politics and geolocation. And that's interesting too. Many of you have geolocated services at the moment. You can leverage the regionalistic alliance, if you will, this heartfelt throb for home because you're geolocated. But look deeper into other things that will connect them. They can support you when you grieve. And there is no reason you should not leverage good news, bad news, and other news, political, cultural, social, weather, whatever it is, to connect on a regular basis with your audience. And that's part of the better delivery, by the way, of search results. And it enables us to share our interests. And that interest will be the first hello that will bring them to your site. They're looking for something. And after that, when they find community, they will come back more frequently. And like fire, it gets out of hand quickly, and so with a lot of care, you can manage these communities online. Make sure you have very clear rules about how people will engage, what their discussions will be about, and make sure that they don't cross the line between damned it and damned you. We discuss topics and issues, not people. Don't let flames go on your websites. So lots of vigilance and handling. Every one of these marketing tools, which is called inbound marketing, right, can be leveraged in order to build a site for yourselves. What you have is IP that will build the next stage of what you're about to deliver. It isn't so much about delivering line items of information so that people can buy and sell stuff. It's about connecting people who have stuff that need stuff. That's hugely different. Sometimes there's a monetary transaction that goes between them. Sometimes there isn't, as we talked about with the Boeing company. You're at a crossroads today, just as we were at a crossroads about 10 years ago. Our question first was whether or not we were going to go with services versus product. Some of you are already doing product. The gentleman who just came up here before me was doing product, right? Building a platform that can power what it is that you do. And he's helping you to see the next stage of what you can do by using his platform. We chose to go with that. That was a choice. What was not a choice was that SEO was no longer SEO. It was a far more complex platform of services and possibilities. It had become this and much more than this. And we had to address it. And that's where you stand today. So parting thoughts. All of you are entrepreneurs here, and we entrust how we are going to live and work together to entrepreneurs, of which, of course, you are part of that community. I would encourage you to connect with people who are outside the classified world. I encourage you to connect with other entrepreneurs with brilliant ideas and to cross-pollinate those ideas to see what the heck they need. We have a burgeoning of entrepreneurship around the planet. Who's serving their needs? I know of one person who's just beginning to look at that and saying lots of young entrepreneurs have to have stuff and they can't get a hold of it and they're not getting funded. There's too much of that going on and maybe they're not building companies big enough. How do these guys get a good idea off the ground? And so she said, what I'm going to do is say, well, those companies who are a little bit further along, they have stuff they're giving away. They're trading out their desks and their chairs and their old printers and whatever, and maybe they would give that to the new entrepreneurs. All we needed was a marketplace to put it together. It's essentially a classified system. She's looking to become one of you, But she looked at it from the other way around, like that little baby. She looked at it from another way and said, how do we serve them and what do we become? She never even used the term classified, just like Greg's daughter does not use the term classified. That would be a good signal that classified is not the way to think about what you do. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.